Britain's new King Charles III has pledged to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of the British nation. In his first televised address to the nation at Buckingham Palace, he promised to serve his people with loyalty and announced new titles for Prince William and Catherine. The address follows the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, after 7 decades at the throne.
I too now solemnly pledge myself, throughout the remaining time God grants me, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation. And wherever you may live in the United Kingdom, or in the realms and territories across the world, and whatever may be your background or beliefs, I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love, as I have throughout my life. My life will, of course, change as I take up my new responsibilities. It will no longer be possible for me to give so much of my time and energies to the charities and issues for which I care so deeply. But I know this important work will go on in the trusted hands of others. This is also a time of change for my family. I count on the loving help of my darling wife, Camilla. In recognition of her own loyal public service since our marriage 17 years ago, she becomes my Queen Consort. I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much. As my heir, William now assumes the Scottish titles which have meant so much to me. He succeeds me as Duke of Cornwall and takes on the responsibilities for the Duchy of Cornwall, which I have undertaken for more than 5 decades. Today, I am proud to create him Prince of Wales, Tywysog Cymru, the country whose title I've been so greatly privileged to bear during so much of my life and duty. With Catherine beside him, our new Prince and Princess of Wales will, I know, continue to inspire and lead our national conversations, helping to bring the marginal to the centre ground, where vital help can be given.
A condolence book for Her Late Majesty the Queen will open at the High Commissioner's Pretoria residence here in South Africa. That's between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. today and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. from the 12th to the 16th of September. Messages can also be submitted online. That's at HWPS #royal.uk. And for more on this, let's speak now to the British High Commissioner, speaking to us from South Africa, Antony Phillipson. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Firstly, let me start with you. As we can see in the background there, a picture of Her Majesty. I know some of it may be as a result of officialdom, but I'd like to hear your personal thoughts and remembrance of the legacy of Her Majesty, what she leaves behind for Africans, especially South Africa, but for you personally as well.
Well, thank you very much indeed for inviting me on this evening. This is a rather extraordinary moment, including, as you were just reporting there, having heard and watched myself the first address to the nation by His Majesty King Charles III. That is something that I have only ever known one monarch. I've only known one head of the Commonwealth, and as someone who's only almost 30 years now in the civil service, 30 years as a Crown civil servant. This is a real moment of significance. I think, as His Majesty said, Her Majesty dedicated herself to a life of public service to the people of the Commonwealth. I have often felt it of real significance in my role here as High Commissioner in South Africa that she made that address from Cape Town in 1947 on the occasion of her 21st birthday. And I think it is hugely significant that His Majesty has said that he will continue that tradition, rededicating himself to service to the people of the Commonwealth. So this is an extraordinary moment of change, but I think there's also some important themes of continuity in there as well, both for me as a civil servant, for me as a British citizen, but also in my professional role as High Commissioner to South Africa.
Both the Crown and South Africa, as well as the House of Lords, enjoyed a good relationship. But does her death by any means put the relationship in jeopardy? And I'm just talking here in terms of personalities. The affect of King Charles III may not be that of Her Majesty Queen II. King Charles III at times has not held back in expressing his political opinions. Just share your thoughts with us here.
So I certainly don't think I've thought about many things over the last 48 hours, including, I was actually in London yesterday. I was there for work at the beginning of this week and flew back early last night after we'd seen the news of Her Majesty being put under medical supervision, because I thought I wanted to be here rather than in London. And I confess I've thought of many things, but jeopardy has not entered my lexicon. I think there is a tradition in our political system of the monarch not having political views. They are the head of state. They appoint the head of government, but we are a parliamentary democracy. The monarch governs through Parliament. So I think there will be a lot of continuity, as I say, in that sense. Monarchs are entitled to have their own views, and there is, again, I think one of the greatest, one of our more remarkable traditions is the weekly audience between the head of state and the head of government, which is always a very private moment. And indeed, earlier today, His Majesty had his first audience, or offered his first audience to the new Prime Minister, who, of course, Her Majesty had only appointed or asked to form a government only a few days ago. So, there is extraordinary sort of change, but also continuity here. So I don't think that will change. So I certainly don't think jeopardy is the word I'm thinking of at the minute. I think there will be a continuation of a fondness and a warmth in the relationship between the United Kingdom and South Africa, picking up on the visits that Her Majesty made to this country and the visits that she hosted. And I'm absolutely sure that will continue. His Majesty, he offered, in my time here, the year I've been here as High Commissioner, he has offered condolences on the occasion of the passing of former Archbishop Tutu, on the occasion of the devastating floods in KwaZulu-Natal. I think South Africa has always been in his thoughts, and I'm sure that will continue.
Just listening to your new Prime Minister speaking in the House of Commons earlier on, and looking back at the legacy of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, really paying tribute to her for what she says was modernizing the monarchy, saying, like her father, when King George VI passed on, it stilled the traffic of the 20th century. So it will be for the 21st century with the passing of Her Majesty. But I'm just wondering, in terms of moving forward, as you said, jeopardy is indeed the wrong word to use, but I'm wondering in terms of movement. King Charles III, his passion projects we know are the environment and education. Do we expect him to go full steam ahead and engendering positive change for Africa, particularly, in terms of climate change? Reparations is something that we've been talking about, the need for it. So, I mean, there's so many themes we could dig into there. And I think it's a fascinating question. And say, I watched the remarks in the House of Commons today from the Prime Minister, as well as His Majesty's address to the nation. And there are some real themes in there. But actually, the phrase that really jumped out at me from His Majesty's address was the Queen's love of tradition, but embrace of progress.
And I'm absolutely sure, I feel, I don't want to put words in his mouth, of course, but I feel that is where he will also pick up. Her Majesty, was monarch over 70 years, was an extraordinary time. But if you think about it, and again, as he said in his address, what she picked up, I think he called it the privations after the Second World War, all the way through the extraordinary developments of the 20th century and then into the 21st. I read something today, Her Majesty took the throne before the Berlin Wall was even built, and then was monarch through the period of the Berlin Wall falling. So this is an extraordinary sort of series of cycles. And of course, now in the 21st century, we're seeing our own cycles, and that is what he will inherit as he takes over. But you pick up there, I think, on some of his absolute passions, the environment and education. Those are front and foremost of what we are, as the UK and South Africa network, working on here in South Africa in partnership with the South African government. So, I think there's a lot of continuity here. And I really think that we will be building on the foundations of the work that Her Majesty did over her 70 years on the throne. We'll be picking up there and looking forward, and really looking forward to continue to deepen and strengthen the partnership between South Africa and the UK. And the final point I would make is, even just in the just over 24 hours since the announcement that she had passed away, we have had extraordinary statements of condolences from President Ramaphosa, from other leaders here in South Africa. So I think that is the context in which we'll be looking to build, deepen and strengthen the relationship going forward.
Now, just while we're on the political front, King Charles III, his points of view on the relevance of the Commonwealth, that conversation has obviously been taking place with far more vigor now, given that some would see it as an opportunity for change. So the Commonwealth family, as it's known, that the sovereign presides over, is this something that would dog the new sovereign's future in terms of consideration? We saw Barbados last year leave the Commonwealth, point out what they saw as the negative connotations of colonialism. And relevance for the Commonwealth, that's been brought up a number of times. What are your thoughts about this conversation that would be taking place in Buckingham Palace now that it does have a new sovereign?
I think it's a really important question, but I would, again, I would point to his own words, His Majesty's own words. He has, I saw the other day, he commented incredibly passionately, and I think really, he's speaking from, again, I don't want to put words in his mouth or speak for him, of course. But he has made very clear that his commitment to the Commonwealth is really heartfelt. He will take over as head of the Commonwealth from Her Majesty, and her commitment to the Commonwealth, as I say, it goes all the way back to her 21st birthday. And I think we have seen that her words, that they were not empty words. She then she put action behind the words over the next 75 years of her life. He has made very clear that he has utmost respect for the constitutional nature of all of the members of the Commonwealth. It is their decision what their constitutional makeup is. But he has also said that he believes that what binds the people of the Commonwealth is a belief in values, a belief in democracy, a belief in freedom of speech, a belief in Commonwealth with a small c, if I can put it that way. So I don't think that should be a reason to question the value of the Commonwealth. I think he is absolutely committed to leading the Commonwealth into the future, delivering opportunities for our younger generations. Again, as he said in his address to the nation, he has already had almost 50 years himself of public service, including creating opportunities for the younger generations through the Prince's Trust, his own commitment to the environment and to climate change. So I think those are the things that will run through his commitment to the Commonwealth. And I think those are very powerful. And it feels to me here in South Africa, or indeed even in my previous posting in another part of the Commonwealth in Singapore, they resonate with the people of the Commonwealth. It's a forward-facing community of nations, a community of people. And I think that's something very important and powerful in the world that we live in today.
Just in terms of the values, the principles, the issues that Britons now have an opportunity to coalesce around. And I say this against the backdrop of the fact that King Charles III is expected to tour Britain over the next couple of days, and obviously the country will be in mourning, and that also means that parliamentary business will be suspended. What opportunities can King Charles the third, take advantage of at this point to mend broken bridges where there have been, given the political upheaval we've seen of late?
Well, I don't want to repeat the words of your question back to you, but as you say, I mean, I think it has been announced that he will be touring the various parts of the United Kingdom. I confess I'm not myself sure what the parliamentary business will be, but I think the important thing is that he will use this period to continue to, I think, amplify the themes of his address this evening in terms of accepting the new role as monarch and engaging with peoples across the United Kingdom. And I'm sure beyond beyond the mourning period, as he goes about conducting the business of monarch, he will be looking to engage the peoples of the Commonwealth. And again, I mean, I can only put it in his own words. He takes his new roles extremely seriously. His previous roles will be assumed by other members of the royal family, including, of course, his heir, Prince William. So I think that is what we will see happen, both in the period of this week up until the state funeral, which I think we're still waiting for final confirmation of the date, but I think we expect it to be around about the 19th, Monday the 19th of September. And then I think there will be a focus on delivering the responsibilities of his role.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. Much appreciated. Antony Phillipson is the British High Commissioner to South Africa, just speaking to us about not only how Britons are reflecting on the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II,